Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for your presentation. I found it to be really interesting and especially on topic as we in the program are kind of getting into more detail about topics like countertransference and things like compulsive helping. Um, I felt like watching this presentation felt really familiar because, fortunately, a lot of the things that you've described are practices that I have been trying to implement in a consistent way for quite some time, and especially since I've started grad school, have been really helpful for me. Um, with similar things, juggling work and school and a social life and trying to go outside sometimes and um, moving my body. It's just a lot of stuff all at once. And like you said, you cannot pour from an empty cup. That is something that I have said many times. I say it a lot. It's one of my taglines. So yeah, that felt very familiar and very validating. Um, and yeah, I think it was really helpful to hear about the ways in which you managed these types of like the stress overload, because I definitely have some concern about my future practice and potentially getting really overwhelmed or being really spongy, because I have been in the past and I do have a tendency now, so it's something I have to really keep an eye on. Um, because like I feel I envision something like compassion fatigue being not only in itself difficult, but the feelings around it being really difficult, and like being disappointed in myself for not being there for my clients enough. And so, yeah, just the understanding and the knowledge that you can't help people unless you are in like a regulated kind of stable place, at least some of the time. So my current self care practices include things like I journal a lot. I journal a lot. That's super helpful. I am fortunate to live in a really beautiful area. I live in Humboldt County, so the opportunity to just like get outside and just be in nature it's very accessible to me. Like just today, I decided that I was going to go down to the river and study for a couple hours, and that was really helpful. Or, yeah, going on a walk in the redwood forest, going to the beach. I'm so fortunate and grateful to be living in such a pristine natural environment that is so easy to access when I need it. Um, I really am trying to be more consistent about going to the gym. It's very obvious that my mental health is better when my physical health is being attended to. And outside of like structured intentional exercise in that way, dancing is a huge thing for me. And it checks so many boxes because it feels good in my body. It's communal. It feels great to dance and sing with friends. It makes me feel closer to them. It makes me feel closer to myself. I just can't even say enough good things about music and dance, especially in a social context or even just by myself dancing around the house. Um, so helpful. So yeah, I try to make time for social connections whenever possible. I try to make time for or I do make time for like being with my partner, and physical touch is something that's really calming and comforting for me. So I've been very vocal about that need with my partner, and he is more than happy to accommodate that. Even just holding my hand or like stroking my hair. Sometimes that is just enough to get me out of my head and into my body. Um, for a few years now, have been really trying to cultivate a consistent meditation practice. It is not yet consistent, but during the times when it was, again, it was really easy to like immediately see the benefits to it. So that is something I think I'll always be striving for. Hopefully, I'll get there. And if I go in and out, that's okay too. But I'm really grateful to have it as part of my toolkit. Um, Also, there are certain video games that I find to be really helpful. I think that they can be really meditative. I think that they can really kind of enhance the part of the brain that understands that you might not know how to do it yet, but you can learn. It builds self-confidence in that way, and it's also sort of like a narrative practice. Like you are that character going on that quest. Like you are that hero. You're gonna save the world. And also specifically, I play a lot of Tetris. Like almost every night I play Tetris, and it can be so meditative, especially if I like put on some really great music in the background. I just get into a zone. And I've read some things recently about how Tetris is meditative and absorbing in this way that can be really helpful because it works in a similar way to EMDR, where it's something about like the rapid eye movement that can be really helpful for stabilizing the nervous system. And even on top of that, I have read that there have been some studies done about how if you specifically play Tetris within like a certain amount of time after a traumatic event, it can lessen the symptomology of that trauma because it's just doing something to your brain and helping you recognize that you're not in danger. Something about the trauma doesn't imprint quite the same. And I thought that's so interesting and something that I want to be looking into as well in the future. So those are the things that I do in my self-care strategies, and things just like even simple things just like taking a lot of deep breaths and like grounding, humming, singing are things that have really helped me to manage emotional regulation in my work and in my personal life. And so I think understanding the autonomic nervous system and its impact on stress, like, absolutely changes the way that I approach work with people and my own emotional regulation, just kind of really always kind of keeping an eye out for how fast my heart is going, or like sometimes when I get really anxious, I feel nauseous. And so really paying attention to like my physiological cues has been like a huge help for me in understanding how I feel, even if I do sometimes and traditionally have felt disconnected from my body in that way. That has been a huge help in kind of integrating those things, and always kind of trying to keep myself in that window of tolerance and understanding how to do that for myself and recognizing the signs of that in myself will ultimately help me recognize it and understand and have compassion for that in the people that I'm working with. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think this was really great. I think it's super helpful and like vital information to have as a helping professional. So, thank you so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I will absolutely be keeping all of these things in mind as I move forward. Thanks again.